Hi there, I'm Andrew Chang. On tonight's program, returning to the rubble. The people of the Ashcroft First Nation are seeing their flattened homes for the first time. We'll explore what it'll take to rebuild. We're also getting answers to why a CN train smashed into an ambulance 2 years ago, killing an 87-year-old patient inside. And is all of society's focus on recycling for a greener planet amounting to virtually nothing? CBC Vancouver News at 6 starts right now. The Ashcroft First Nations Reserve was one of the first communities to be ravaged by wildfires. Dozens of people were forced to leave their homes, and many of those homes were destroyed. Well, today, a handful of band members returned to the reserve to get a first look at the damage. Jesse Johnston takes us there.
Was a Ryder lawnmower.
Gary Klassen stood face to face with a wall of fire. Armed with sprinklers and a hose, he spent 4 hours keeping the flames back just far enough to save his house.
Save my house, save my animals. Outbuildings, I don't care. You know, I can rebuild that, right?
Klassen defied an evacuation order to protect his home. Others fled and hoped for the best. Some don't have homes to come back to. Others, like Daryl Kirkpatrick, are much more fortunate.
I might be able to move back in maybe tomorrow, but I got to clean out like my fridges and freezers and all that.
You take a look around here, and one of the things that really stands out is how there's no rhyme or reason to what the flames just completely destroyed and what was left untouched. And that's one of the things that band members here are really going to have to wrestle with, is how do you come home to a house that was untouched by flames when so many of your neighbors are coming home to this?
I think it's a natural feeling, you know, why did you get your house and why don't I have mine? You know, there's no justification for that. And we'll have to deal with that when the time comes.
Nearly half of the 32 homes on the reserve were destroyed. Some lost pets, some lost vehicles, some lost everything. Kirkpatrick knows he fared better than many, so he's borrowed some heavy machinery from his boss, and he's helping crews as they work to restore power, phone, and internet to the reserve.
Because I just got back, went to check my house, and all of a sudden, boss shows up. Ready to work? Yep. Anything to help the community, hey, try to come together and unite again.
It's a long and expensive rebuild ahead. Chief Blaine says conservatively it will cost $10 to $15 million, and he says his members are in need of government help. But he knows his community will get through it. In that, he has absolute faith. Jesse Johnston, CBC News, Ashcroft.
So as the community's attention turns to rebuilding, one question you have to ask is, who will be there to help them? Well, earlier today, I asked that to a fire research scientist in Edmonton, and turns out it's not exactly a straightforward process. Here's a part of our conversation.
People on reserve don't own their homes. The band and INAC actually own the home, so they actually don't have individual homeowner insurance. So they're not able, when their home burns, you know, to just go and call their insurance company and make a claim, or even if there's damage to their property, they're kind of left waiting, I guess, for response from their band and then also from Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada.
And so how does that process work then? I mean, the band has to go essentially to the federal government and say, here's the kind of help we need?
Yes. So the Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada has an agreement for emergency management with Emergency Management British Columbia, so EMBC. So the process would probably be through them and then through INAC.
Now, we did reach out to Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada, INAC, to ask them how much help the Ashcroft First Nation would be given to rebuild. We've yet to hear back, but once we do, we'll try to give you an update. Now, let's zoom out a bit and give you a snapshot of where things stand in the province right now. According to the province's wildfire service, there are 188 fires burning. 16 new ones were sparked yesterday, and crews are still working to get some of the biggest fires contained. One of the strategies, controlled burns, like you see here, to rob the larger wildfire of any potential fuel. Meantime, evacuation orders and alerts remain in effect for 17 areas. The fire threatening Williams Lake is about 60% contained. Compare that to areas like Princeton and 100 Mile House, which are just 10 and 20% contained. Now, you think about what all those ground crews are going through right now, fighting these fires day after day. And someone who's all too familiar with the toll that can take joins us right now. He's the mayor of Slave Lake in Alberta, but he also spent 8 years as a volunteer firefighter, something that put him on the front lines for both Slave Lake in 2011 and the Beast in Fort McMurray last year. Mayor Tyler Warman joins us right now. And Mayor Warman, can you first just paint me a picture? I mean, describe for me what it is that firefighters on the ground are going through right now.
You know, I think for most of them, it's something that they've never ever experienced. So you've got two very different groups probably there right now. You've got one that does this seasonally every summer, that's employed by the province, obviously, but you've got a lot of rural volunteers, fire departments that these are just volunteers that are out there. They've never seen anything like this. And you know, I think back to a lot of our experience in 2011. We had the fire here in Slave Lake, and you know, the sky gets very dark, and it's kind of got an orange tint to it, and very smoky. It's very hard to breathe, and a lot of heat coming depending on how close you are to it, and a lot of ash as things are falling, and yeah, it really feels like a war zone.
How exhausting is it to be working in those conditions? I mean, gosh, for 12, 14 hours a day, day after day after day.
Yeah, adrenaline kicks in multiple times for sure, and at the start of it, you're very much ready for anything. But yeah, when you're going on hour 8 and 9 and 10 and 11, like this is it's backbreaking work. It's a lot of moving, hauling equipment, and sweating and breathing in some pretty nasty stuff that it's exhausting to say the least. And it's one of those things too, where these people are trying to protect their homes, or trying to protect their communities. They don't want to quit, and so there are no breaks. There is no time off, and you go as long as you can, and then you sleep for as little as you can, and you get back at it again. So a lot of dedication from a lot of people. My heart goes out to the people of BC there right now.
And one last question for you: how difficult is it to recover from that kind of grueling work?
Well, it's like anything. You cherish the time you get with your families when it's all over, and you take the rest that you need. And like any fire event, though, there's a lot of work to do even afterwards, and recovery takes a long time. So yeah, you know, you take a break when you can and get the energy and the rest you need, because it's a tough road ahead.
Okay, Mayor Warman, we appreciate you touching base with the program. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, residents are also feeling the strain. Many of them left in limbo, waiting for evacuation orders to be lifted. Our Tanya Fletcher heard some of their stories at a roadblock near Cache Creek.
Up on the hillside there used to be a runway. Officials say it was destroyed, all but the windsock that's left. You can see it blowing, and that perhaps gives the best indication as to the current conditions. It remains hot and dry and windy here. And I want you to take a look at the fire retardant behind this business. It shows you just how close the flames got, not only to this tow truck business, but also to the main highway here. This is Highway 97C, the main road that connects Ashcroft with Cache Creek. This roadblock here has been in place now for almost a week. We've been chatting with people who've pulled up to try to get back onto their properties. They want to check on their homes. They're being turned away. One woman in particular was very worried because she owns a home in Cache Creek, which was evacuated, and she has an 85-year-old tenant living there. He refuses to leave. She was escorted back last night by RCMP to check on him. He still insists on staying, so she's hoping at least today to be escorted back in to at least deliver some food and water and supplies to make sure he's okay for the next few days. And it's that uncertainty is caused by scenes like the one directly behind me. That's about a kilometer back, and that's smoke from a new fire that sparked up just this morning, officials say. And it's that kind of uncertainty that will have locals staying anxious as they await word of returning home. That could be perhaps another week or so.
So let's get the latest on the weather picture right now. Our meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff standing by. What's the latest?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of rain in the forecast. What we do have, though, is shifting winds. But generally, the past couple of days have been a little calmer as far as the extreme heat and dry air and the winds go. they have been on the lesser scale of what we've seen in the past week. The troughs that have been being spun across the province over the past couple of days, basically bringing the excessive rainfall north of Prince George, not where most of our fires are burning. Once again, we're seeing some isolated thunderstorms spark up in the Prince George area, not getting any rain down south. In fact, that rain has really changed the game as far as our fire danger map goes. Look at the contrast between the south at extreme and continuing to climb, and then back down to low where we have been getting those isolated thunderstorms. Taking a quick look at the winds today, you can see the greens down here. That's where once again these afternoon westerly winds really funneling through the valleys, picking up to about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Gusty once again, but not as strong as we've seen them. In the long range forecast though, that's when winds are a big concern. First, we have to get through a couple of hot days. So taking you through Friday and Saturday, we get another one of these very hot and dry ridges building in from the southwest. So this is where we're talking mid 30-degree temperatures, drying that fuel right out, making conditions very dangerous for new fires and for fighting the existing fires. And then as we head into Saturday night, this low pressure system that's been spinning off the coast for over a week now, finally pushing through the province. And as it does so, it's going to bring very gusty and shifting winds. Saturday afternoon, we'll see them come up from the south, and then Saturday into Monday, shifting to come in from the northwest. And as that front passes, we could be looking at winds as high as 70 kilometers per hour. So I know I've heard officials already talking about their concerns Saturday night with this big system. It'll bring cooler temperatures. Not a lot of rain, though. Winds will be a big story in the next couple days.
Okay, thanks very much, Jo.
You're welcome.
Turning now to our top story. We're starting to get an up-close look at wildfire damage. Dozens of homes have been destroyed in the Caribou. And earlier today, we caught up with Matthew Smith. His father-in-law lost his family home and his auto shop near 100 Mile House. Here's what he had to say.
Thursday, we found out people were telling us that there was some smoke coming over the hills, and it was located in 100 Mile dump area. And so my brother-in-law was still at the house at the time, and we at the time didn't think that they were going to lose control of the fire, so we all kind of thought it was a joke. And the RCMP ended up showing up at midnight and asking him to evacuate. And then we're not sure the exact timeline, but within the next couple hours, I think it was, or maybe day, the fire had swept through there and just completely consumed the house. First, it was kind of like, you know, they lost the house, and then when you see the images, you see the places you used to be, and you can really picture what used to be there, and now just a pile of ash. I mean, that I think was the most emotional part. I know Stan and Darlene took it. They've done extremely well with coping through this whole process, but I think when they see the pictures, it's even hard for them to look at any given time, just because, you know, they have a life of memories there. For me, I've been married in the family for 11 years, so that house has kind of been the cornerstone of kind of where everybody goes. I've lived there a few times. I had some smoke damage in my house. I went and lived there. I went there after my daughter was born, my oldest daughter. And so there's, yeah, all the grandkids have so many memories of that house, and so they love going there. They call it Papa Yaya's house, but I don't know, it's going to be hard to cope with, I think.
Now, every year during wildfire season, one question that seems to come up again and again is, why isn't the province using the Martin Mars water bomber, a behemoth of a plane capable of dropping a massive amount of water on a fire below? That's a good question when you consider what it's capable of. It can pack 27,000 liters of water in a single trip. Compare that to what's in service today. There's the Air Tractor Fireboss, a tiny plane by comparison. It can carry barely over a tenth of what the Martin Mars can carry. There are two bigger ones, the Lockheed Electra and the BAE 146, both of which can carry about 11,000 liters. But the Martin Mars, still very much in a class of its own. And in the past, it's certainly been put to good use. 2 years ago, in fact, the province used it to fight wildfires here, stationed on Sprout Lake outside Port Alberni on Vancouver Island. It took the crew a few days to get the plane operational, but back then the province said it needed to tap into every tool at its disposal. So, no surprise this year. Just take a look at some of the questions that we've been seeing on social media. Calling out both the incoming and outgoing premiers, Darren writes, state of emergency in BC and two of the world's largest bombers sitting idle in Port Alberni. Another person writes, I'm reading we have the two Martin Mars water bombers parked that could be rushed into fire suppression. Let's get them flying. And Connie adds, let's get the Martin Mars water bombers back online in BC. Any place that has a fire season has no excuse to park them. And look, that's just a small sampling of all of the tweets, the emails, and even the phone calls that we've been getting here in the CBC newsroom about this topic. So we've asked the CBC's Matthew Lazen Ryder to look into this question of why we aren't using the Martin Mars water bomber. And so what's the answer?
Well, the short answer is we can't. There is only one Martin Mars water bomber that could be used, and it's out of service. Last year in Wisconsin at an air show, it hit a rock in a lake and had to be taken out for repairs. Now it's being serviced and upgraded and is simply not available to be used.
And what if it was available to be used? Would the province actually be using it?
Well, that's another story, and the Martin Mars water bomber has limitations like any plane. And there are plenty of air tankers and water bombers out there. The province has several that they're using right now. The Martin Mars is a huge plane. It was originally a warplane. It needs a great big lake to land on, scoop up a bunch of water, and turn around. And depending on how far a big lake is from a fire, it takes a long time to fly that plane from a lake to the fire and back again. So a lot of what we use in BC are quite small planes. The Air Tractor Fireboss.
Yeah, they're quite a bit smaller.
They're about the size of a de Havilland beaver, and they just kind of, fleet of 5 will come down, scoop up a little bit of water, take off, turn around, and dump water and come back. And it's very, very quick and simultaneous and coordinated.
Because roughly how many planes are in the air right now?
Right now, the province has about 40 planes and roughly 200 helicopters. We're not wanting for planes. There's a lot of activity going on in the sky right now.
So what is it that you're saying then, that even if the Martin Mars bomber was in service, that it wouldn't be used or wouldn't be useful at all in this fight?
What people on the ground are trying to do to fight fires is they're not trying to put out the fires for the most part. They're trying to control them and get people to safety. So what you want is a bunch of small planes that can work really, really quickly and help you kind of move a fire along to where you want it to go. And I spoke with Bob Gray, a fire ecologist and consultant in Vancouver, and here's what he had to say about the length of time it takes to get that Martin Mars up and down again.
If you're the incident commander on the ground or the division supervisor and you're calling in the resource, you're watching how fast the fire is spreading, and you're doing a calculation on how much perimeter can I get with each load, and your turnaround time is 50 minutes, then you've just lost everything you've just done. You want something that comes around so fast you can start to work your way around the head of the fire and pinch it off.
And Andrew, I've spoken to a few fire experts, aviation experts, forestry experts, and they all have a pretty similar message, and that is that they know every time fire season comes around, there's this outcry of where's the Martin Mars water bomber, and the message is that the people in charge fighting the fires, doing their best to save lives and homes, they know what they're doing. And if they thought that the Martin Mars water bomber was the right bomber for this scenario, for this kind of terrain or this near a water, they would use it if it were available. But the kind of fires that we're fighting, what we're trying to do with them, they're using the resources that they think are the best. It's not like they don't know about the Martin Mars water bomber. There are other tankers that are more appropriate for the use in BC.
That's all very interesting stuff. Matthew Lazen Ryder, thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Andrew.
Now, firefighters in the interior are making some progress, but there are concerns about the days to come. About 14,000 people have already been displaced by the fires. Another 10 are on standby. And as Rafi Boudjikanian reports, some people are refusing to leave their homes.
In the community of Soda Creek, some have stayed behind to fight the fires even as they watch the flames get ever closer.
Within, I don't know, 2-3 minutes that there was 5 fires burning here, 2 or 3 on that mountain. There was 2 behind us on this mountain here. This is our property, our personal property, and we're not going. We come here, we're going to fight the fire.
In Williams Lake, firefighters are still pushing back, aided by calmer than expected winds. And some people are still trying to make their way to evacuation centers, like this family, stuck sleeping underneath a tent after running out of enough gas to make it to Kamloops.
It's pretty stressful when you're running out of food and things like that. I haven't got enough gas to go anywhere to get any help.
Another concern, fatigue. Many firefighters have been working grueling shifts, 15 to 16 hours a day.
Bravo Sierra Fox Fire Center, go ahead.
The same for the dispatchers assisting them behind the scenes. There is some relief, firefighters from elsewhere arriving to lend a hand, in some cases grateful to give back.
It's very emotional, it's very rewarding, it's very challenging, all those things combined, to be able to come back and give back to the community that came to help us with the Fort McMurray wildfire.
The unpredictable weather is making it difficult to say when the fire situation might improve. A lightning storm that was expected yesterday didn't happen, but now there is a forecast for strong winds for the weekend, raising concerns about what that could bring. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Kamloops.